Iowa football was a love-hate situation with the fans last year. Everyone hated the offense, but they loved the 10 wins. Will the offense be any better this year? I don't think so. I'll tell you why and what that means moving forward on Locked On Big Ten.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. I'm coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So let's get into this. We're going to talk about the offensive Iowa offense, plus new tickets available for you Ohio State fans. I will explain. And our future pigskin picks for the beginning of the season. I'll explain what we're doing with that as well. But let's get real with our expectations for Iowa football for the 2024 season. We know the deal last year. Historically bad offense. Historical lows on Vegas on point totals. Great. And by the way, the unders continue to head. Great defense, 10 wins, and an appearance in the Big Ten championship game. Overall, pretty good season. Kirk Ferentz had to fire his offensive coordinator's son, Brian Ferentz, and replace him with Tim Lester. What about this year? Will Tim Lester make a difference? By the way, we're going to keep it real here in our expectations. There are some similarities from last year to this year moving forward. And I like to remind you guys all the time, last year I was all on the Iowa train going into the season. Nobody saw it coming. I said, this team could win some football games, and they did. And I love talking about Iowa football. I don't want to say they were the wreck on the side of the road you couldn't take your eyes off of, but it was like, how low would they go each and every week, and could they still win? I think they were one of the most exciting stories in college football last year. I watched almost all of their games. I think I watched all their games, to be honest with you. I couldn't look away. I had to see how this was going to go. So I come at this from a fan here in the Big Ten with Iowa football. So let's keep it real. What about this year? So Tim Lester's going to come in as the new offensive coordinator, and he'll have the return of injured quarterback Cade McNamara. Will it make a difference? Maybe not. I'll explain. First of all, this offensive coordinator gig was tough to fill. It was kind of like nobody wanted it. It was open for a long, long time. It was believed that former Wisconsin head coach Paul Chryst was one that turned it down after he talked to the team about it. And by the way, we have news on him actually later on in the podcast. So Badger fans, stay tuned for that. The offensive coordinator job was hard to fill because there's not an abundance of offense on this roster. There's not a lot of talent. There's not a lot of explosiveness with this offense. So if an offensive coordinator comes in, well, what are they going to do? You know, they might not be very good on paper. They might not put up a lot of numbers. They might not put up a lot of stats. They might not win as many games as they did last year. And now all of a sudden, whoever the offensive coordinator is, and it turns out it's going to be Tim Lester, doesn't look as good. It could be a bit of a career hiccup. That's why people didn't want to take the job, but Lester did. So what does he have to work with? Let's start with the offensive line. It needed help, and it looked like it got help. 5-star Caden Proctor decided to transfer into portal out of Alabama, come back home to Iowa, play for Iowa. He was there for 6 weeks? Went on spring break with his Alabama buddy. Says, this is a mistake. I got to go back to Alabama. So he flipped. He portal twice. In and out, gone, never had him. Too bad, because that would have really helped this Iowa offense out. So he's back down there. They still need help with the O-line. They did add interior lineman Cade Borud, but he's a walk-on. So I don't know how much help he'll be. Maybe add a little bit of depth, and that's about it. What about the quarterback situation? Cade McNamara, he transferred in from Michigan last year, and he arrived while recovering from a knee injury and a little bit of surgery there, and he was limited during his first spring camp. Then during summer training camp, he suffered a second injury, and he was never right going into the season. And by week 5 of the regular season, he had a season-ending knee injury, needed to be repaired with surgery, and then he was very limited for spring football this year. I mean, this is it. His eligibility is winding down. He had 2 years, and he's been injured for a lot of it. He suffered 3 injuries in 18 months. So everybody could say, yeah, we're going to have Cade back. He's good to go. And by the way, during spring football, he couldn't plant and throw. He wasn't there yet. They're hopeful that he'll be ready to go by training camp and the start of the season. But you can't put all your eggs in one basket with a situation like that. When Deacon Hill left, and he wasn't great, but he stepped in and he played a lot of games last year. He had some experience. He left. There was really nobody left on the depth chart. Cade McNamara, it was like Cade McNamara or bust at this point. They had a couple of younger guys, but they weren't going to come up and play. So now I think the Hawkeyes lucked out a little bit here, being nervous about the quarterback situation and not really having anybody that was going to play any meaningful minutes in the season. Didn't take any snaps during spring football. After spring football, Brendan Sullivan, the quarterback at Northwestern, decided after their spring football that he was going to leave. I don't know why, because he was going to probably start over there. Maybe he didn't want to play in front of small crowds on bleachers on campus because they tore down their football stadium. Maybe he wanted a real football experience. And believe me, going to Iowa and playing at Kinnick Stadium and all that place was rocking and rolling. So maybe that was part of his decision making. Plus, I think Sullivan saw some of the writing on the wall, and he thinks, first of all, he's got 2 years of eligibility left. Worst case scenario comes in, maybe McNamara is not ready to go and he plays. Maybe he backs him up this year and then he's got the starting job next year. Or maybe he thinks he can come in and take this job right now from day one. So we'll see. I think those are some of the things he considered when he came to Iowa. And I think he's right in all of his thinking if that was the case. Now, who are these quarterbacks going to throw to? Wide receiver? Looks pretty thin. I mean, they added Jacob Gill from Northwestern. Sullivan will have a little familiarity with him. But the top 2 returning receivers for Iowa have like 33 catches from last year. There's Caleb Brown, after last year, after arriving from Ohio State, had 22 catches in 11 games. Seth Anderson played in all 14 games, only had 11 catches and 1 touchdown. Remember, last year, the receivers were playing. They weren't catching any balls. It was to the tight ends and run the ball. That's what the offense was last year. Speaking of running backs, I think LaShawn Williams is the best weapon that this team has. He had 821 yards on the ground last year. He's capable of some big games, had a couple of 100-yard games. Wisconsin and Nebraska coming up, shredded the Nebraska defense, really had a good game. And also Caleb Johnson could spell for 463 yards. So between the two, they got like 1,300 yards on the ground last year. There's some there. That's something they can build on and hang their hat on. There's tight end Luke Lachey, who's going to come back, who I think he's a solid tight end. He's coming from tight end U. They have a reputation of cranking out NFL-style tight ends. Lachey's not a big as far, he didn't have to put a lot of receiving numbers. Okay receiving numbers. Didn't really light it up. Although compared to the wide receivers, he did until he got injured. So he's coming back from that injury, and it was a pretty gruesome injury, lower leg, ankle, he broke it. And so he's coming back this year. But, right now, nothing really explosive. All right. So you can throw to your tight end a little bit. You got a nice running back. He's running behind an offensive line that's not that great. And, even when Cade McNamara was healthy, he wasn't that explosive. It wasn't that accurate, whether it be at Michigan or here. So I don't think there's a lot to look at here offensively, unless they really get some slightly or good, a highly elevated quarterback play. It might be more of the same. They just don't have a lot of weapons to go to, even if the quarterback play is good. Iowa should have hit the portal harder on offense, and they didn't. Now, there's still some reason for hope, Hawkeyes fan. Let's not bury the season just yet. So the defense is going to be really, really good again, despite losing one of my favorite players to watch in Cooper DeJean. If you're a Hawkeyes fan, you know what I'm talking about. He was probably one of your favorite players too. He's now in the NFL. But the Hawkeyes do return the number 2 production in the country on the defensive side of the ball. So got some guys coming back. You got Nick Jackson and Jay Higgins at linebacker, for example. and Sebastian Castro, I thought was pretty good last year as a defensive back and was in the shadow of Cooper DeJean. He played some good football by himself too. So there's some talent on the defensive side of the ball. They can ground it, they can punch you in the mouth, and maybe keep games ugly and grind them, and the offense can hang in there for a while. We'll see. We'll see. So for 2024, offensively, it's wash, rinse, and repeat. I think from 2023. I know some of you may not want to hear that, but that's what Tim Lester has to work with, from what I can see. So again, with the good defense, and if the offense doesn't kill you, I think maybe 6, 7, best case scenario, 8 wins. I'll dive into the schedules and win totals later on in the summer. I do that each summer. So I think 8 would be the ceiling here. I think 6 is the bottom, though. They're going bowling. They'll be a bowl eligible team. It'll be a good team. It's not gonna dazzle anybody offensively again. And but hey, at least Kirk Ferentz and the Hawkeyes will go bowling again. Hawkeyes fans, what do you think? I just spelled all this out here for you. What do you think? You agree with me? Love to hear from you. Hit me up on Twitter or X at TalkBig10 10. Don't forget the comments on YouTube as well. And don't forget our website, TalkBig10 10.com. Before you go later on, don't forget to subscribe. Do it right now while you're watching. Just hit the subscribe button, and then we're all together in the Big Ten Club. You can follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you'll get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. All right, there's a new way for Ohio State to make money. There's a new way for you to go watch them if you're a Buckeyes fan. Plus, we have an update on Paul Chryst, and we told you, former Wisconsin head football coach. And then later on, our first round of Pigskin Picks for the first week of the season. I'll explain all that coming up in a minute here on Locked On Big Ten. Passion, drive, and patience. The winning formula championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and all the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Thanks for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, again, subscribe for free. No other information required on YouTube. You can share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget to check out our website, TalkBig10 10.com. Got some merch up there, and all of our podcasts are right there at your fingertips. All right. Money, money, money. College football is big money. You know that. I know that. We talk about it all the time here. Ohio State, you Buckeye fans, you can attend preseason practices for a $50 ticket now. That's the cost of some actual game tickets early on in the season. Heck, the spring game was only about $10 to get in the door, if I recall. So here's the deal. Here's what's going on at Ohio State. The Buckeyes' first 4 practices to training camp, August 1st through the 4th. They're open to fans if you pay the $50. Again, those dates are August 1st through the 4th, and along with the ticket, those fans will get you the official 2024 Buckeyes sunglasses and also get into the fan fest they got each day afterward. Supplies are limited now. There'll only be 750 tickets to each day. Quick math, 4 days. That's 3,000 tickets. I also did the math, 3,000 tickets, $50, more math. That's $150,000 that they raise up. That'll pay for a low-level assistant. Maybe that's what they're thinking. Little recruiting news for you around the Big Ten. Penn State, let's start with them. One of their recruiting targets has opted to go elsewhere just days after a visit to Happy Valley. 4-star defensive back Grayson Littleton committed to Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers. He chose them over Penn State. Alabama and Oklahoma. Penn State really thought they were going to get this kid. Minnesota basketball has offered a scholarship to Tommy Anemic. He's the top recruit in the state of North Dakota. He's the 2023 North Dakota Gatorade Player of the Year. He's 6'11", 240 pounds, got a little size to him. Out of Wells Fargo, North Dakota, where he averaged 20 points, 13 rebounds, 2 blocks, and 2 steals per game last season. And he has received offers from Iowa, Nebraska, Penn State, DePaul, Old Dominion, Furman, and Weber State. Anytime we talk about recruiting, we give a shout out to our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. All right. Former Wisconsin head football coach Paul Chryst. He is no longer with the Texas Longhorns. Remember, he left, and after he was fired, he landed with the Longhorns as a football analyst, an offensive analyst, special assistant to Longhorns head coach Steve Sarkisian last season. They had a pretty good season. Wisconsin fired Chryst after a 2-3 start, and I believe it was the embarrassing game was against Illinois, wasn't it? That was the final straw, and they fired him back in 2022. That's how they ended up with Luke Fickell. You know, Chryst's overall record was pretty good. He was 67-26 and had 3 Big Ten West titles and was 6-1 in bowl games. Not bad for a guy that got fired. Anyway, he was a candidate this offseason for the Iowa offensive coordinator job this season. And as we mentioned this earlier, when we're talking about the Iowa offense, it was presumed that he turned down Iowa and said maybe it wasn't a good looking job and wanted to return to Texas as an analyst instead of becoming offensive coordinator of Iowa. But that doesn't totally add up either, because he's no longer with Texas, apparently. He was seen out and about. I think he was at a Packers practice the other day. So back in the state of Wisconsin, but as just watching it, he wasn't in any coaching facility, but his contract at Texas was only for the 2023 season. Who knew? So there you have it. Just the latest on him. I thought he would end up as a head coach here sooner than later. Maybe he still will. Hey, do you watch a lot of TV in the daytime? Sports Talk TV, ESPN, FS1, Fox, all the talking heads, the pundits. Do you get tired of the screaming and the yelling, and whoever talks loudest is supposedly winning the argument? Do something different. Locked On Sports Today. Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right. If you're new, you know we do a segment in our final segment here on the podcast each day. And on Fridays, we do pigskin picks during football. I'm a football geek. I'm always reading and flipping around. And I found today they're out there, the odds for the first games of the season for everybody, the point spreads. So I said, why not? Let's dial up some of the Big Ten teams. Let's see what those point spreads are early on. Let's get after it. Pigskin picks in June. Coming up next here on Locked On Big Ten. I'll tell you about Game Time. You want to go to some NBA Finals? Go to Game Time. Get your tickets on Game Time or the Game Time app. That would be cool. I've been to NBA Finals before. It is a cool electric event. If you want to be there, get there. Game Time makes getting NBA Finals tickets faster and easier, and prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. All kinds of last-minute deals and such. In fact, their last-minute deals, you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, plus concerts, comedy shows, theater. If it has a ticket, you can go. Maybe those Ohio State practice tickets I was talking about are on there. They might be. Game Time. Check it out. Take all the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and the redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. I want to take a look at our pigskin picks. First one of the season. It's early. We'll change our mind. I'm just gonna gloss over this. I pulled some picks. I told you I was kind of just snooping around the old internet and want to see what the odds were, the point spreads for the early games. I didn't find everybody, not all available yet, but I do have some Big Ten ones, about 12 of them, 12 Big Ten teams. So let's take a look at it here. Part of our early season betting lines. We'll start off with Friday, August 30th. Right now, the line Minnesota at North Carolina at Minnesota. The Golden Gophers a 1.5 favorite in this game. Both teams, I should say, are looking for new quarterbacks. Drake May is now in the NFL for North Carolina. Ethan Kaliakmanis for Minnesota is now the starting quarterback at Rutgers. So big question mark game right out of the box for PJ Fleck, but he is, as of right now, a 1.5 favorite. Florida Atlantic is at Michigan State. Aiden Childs, Jonathan Smith, 11-point favorites in that game. That's a Friday night. These are Friday night games. And, of course, Western Michigan at Wisconsin. The Badgers, 23.5-point favorite for that game. Look, I think the Badgers can and will win this game. I don't know if 23.5 is that. That seems high to me. As I sit here in June, that looks high to me. What do you think? All right, here are some other games. Let me get rid of this so you can see better. There we go. We've got UConn at Maryland on Saturday the 31st. Maryland's a 24.5-point favorite. And who knows the quarterback situation at Maryland? Talia's gone, the all-time leading passer in the Big Ten. They are taking on UConn, which we all know UConn's a basketball school. Hey, how about that Hurley story? Lakers. That's for basketball, of course. Football, though, I think Maryland should be able to handle it. Mike Loxley's crew ought to be able to do it. Penn State is at West Virginia. This game was at Happy Valley last year. Only a 10-point favorite on the road at West Virginia. That's an interesting number to look at. Drew Aller, big year for him. How's that going to go? And for James Franklin, we've talked a lot about Penn State here on this program lately. Florida International is at Indiana. Kurt Cignetti's first game as the head coach of the Hoosiers, and they are 18.5-point favorites at home. They'll win. I don't know about the 18.5. Might be a little closer. Akron is at Ohio State. Look at that number. 50.5. Yikes. Probably cover it late, right? That game might be, 60-7, maybe. UTEP is at Nebraska. Dylan Raiola and company. I'm presuming it'll be Dylan Raiola under center. 28-point favorites at home. I like that number, actually. Northwestern, a 3-point favorite at home against Miami of Ohio. Remember, this is going to be in front of like 15,000 fans. Well, they'll have 15. I assume it will sell out, right? 15,000 bleacher seats on Lake Michigan on the old soccer and lacrosse fields because the new stadium's getting done. See what they can do compared to their 8-win season last year. Michigan against Fresno State. Michigan's a 21-point favorite, 21.5-point favorite. Here's the deal with this. Remember, a lot of you were complaining the first 3 games of the season last year. Michigan was 3-0, but they weren't covering, right? If it was a 21.5-point spread, they were winning by like 19. People were upset. I don't know what's going on at quarterback yet. We'll figure that out in due time. We got all summer to figure that out. And, Fresno State comes in and plays Big Ten teams tough. They went into West Lafayette and won last year for the season opener. Now, Michigan's better than Purdue, clearly. Maybe Michigan doesn't cover this one. Maybe 20, maybe 19. What do you think? UCLA is at Hawaii, their first game as a member of the Big Ten. And a 17.5-point cover. I don't know about that either. I don't know how good UCLA is going to be this year. And then finally on Sunday, September 1st, LSU at USC. USC's first game as a Big Ten member taking on an SEC team in LSU. Both of these teams should have good offenses and questionable defenses, but we'll see how much each one shored that up on the other side of the ball. 6-point favorite for LSU. All right, that's a quick look at our FanDuel Sportsbook early season betting lines, our pigskin picks. Can't wait till we do this for real every Friday during the season. That's going to be awesome. I know you guys enjoy that. I do. It's a lot of fun. All right. Let me know what you think about all of it right here, whether you're an Iowa fan, what we talked about at the beginning, to the picks there at the end as well. Always love to hear from you. There are many ways for you to go ahead and get in touch with us. And first of all, there's Twitter, X at Talk Big 10 number 10, talkbig10number10.com, our website, and also comments on YouTube. You guys have been going at it pretty good there as well. So a lot of ways to be involved with this podcast. And be sure to subscribe before you go, if you don't mind, real quick. That does us a great favor. And you can follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app and get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Check out a couple more episodes of Locked On Big Ten. And don't forget our friends at Locked On Sports Today. Here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe there too. First ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. That'll do it. You guys have a wonderful weekend. We keep chipping away at these weeks of the month of June. Before you know it's July, we'll have Big Ten Media Days in Indianapolis with all 18 teams and coaches. There'll be plenty to talk about there. And then about the 1st of August, we get rolling with practice, and the games will be here by the end of that month. It's right around the corner. So tell your friends about us. We're out here every single day getting you ready for the season. And boy, wait till the season starts. We just go nuts. It's awesome. So check us out. Tell your friends about us. If you know a Big Ten alum who's a family member or a friend, let them know about us. Word of mouth really helps us out. We're here every single day, Locked On Big Ten. As always, I enjoyed our visit. I never take it for granted. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Can't wait to talk to you next time. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.